This island is actually famous for its very hot toxic gas. However, tourists still choose to vacation here even though the hot gas could destroy small boats like this. This island is called La Palma and volcanic eruptions often occur here as it is still active. However, the last eruption happened decades ago and this place remains a favorite tourist destination.
This small family goes to La Palma every year and they even got a room upgrade that is very spacious with the best view. In La Palma, there is also an institute focused on monitoring environmental changes around the active mountains. The news of a ship destroyed by hot fog around the mountains has reached the head of the Geology Institute. One of the staff also found that their tracking device suddenly became inactive and did not provide any data. Finally, they decided to move to the mountains to directly check the condition around the monitoring equipment they had installed. The Geology Institute team placed the equipment inside a cave located right below the active volcano to obtain the most accurate data possible. But just a little way into the cave, Mary immediately noticed something strange because during their research here, water had never been able to reach inside this cave. The researchers found something strange inside the cave located beneath the active volcano. Many animals in the cave were dead, and the earthquake detection device they placed under this cave was destroyed.
Then when they looked up, it turned out there was a large crack above this cave, and it is right below the volcano that could erupt at any time. Not far from the mountain, there are many tourists spending their Christmas vacation because this island is indeed a favorite destination around Spain. The researchers who had just come from the cave immediately discussed with their leader at the Geological Institute. But Alvaro underestimated this natural signs. Even though Mary had already explained that this phenomenon was very clear, that there was a massive land shift in the mountains, and that an eruption and a major landslide could occur. Only these two researchers are convinced that in the near future, this island will be split into two. Out of curiosity, the head of the Geological Research Center finally met with the doctor who performed the autopsy on the victims of the hot gas that emerged around the mountains. And it turned out to be true that the gas which caused dozens of deaths was a gas that appeared as a sign of an impending massive volcanic eruption. This diver went alone to the seabed to observe the life of the animals here. However, he was very confused to see the group of turtles leaving their habitat and abandoning La Palma Island. Geological researchers in La Palma also found that the volcanic cracks in La Palma have been gradually widening since the year 1949. They decided to directly observe the cracks occurring in these mountains, and it turned out to be truly frightening. The mountain land had split into two. Mary and her colleague immediately set up measuring instruments to continuously monitor the movement of the land at this crack. However, at the research office, some members discovered something quite concerning. Hot gas from beneath the mountain was accumulating and about to overflow. Mary has also obtained initial data confirming that the mountain land they're standing on is moving every millisecond. Mary then received a call from her superior to leave the mountains immediately because the toxic hot gas from the mountain would overflow. But it turned out the warning was too late. Mary and her colleague were already trapped in the toxic hot steam. Instead of saving themselves, Mary ran towards other climbers and tried to warn them to leave. As a result, Mary ended up trapped alone in the middle of this volcano. Mary, who just survived a dangerous research on the mountain, asked her superior to issue a warning for everyone on the island to be evacuated immediately. However, Alvaro is still not convinced that this is a sign the mountain will erupt. Even the government refuses to issue an emergency warning because if the disaster does not occur, they will get into trouble for causing panic. On this island called La Palma, there are many tourists visiting. The Frederick family spends their Christmas on La Palma every year. However, this time their vacation doesn't seem to be going so well because Frederick and his wife keep arguing about something unimportant. Their daughter even decided to just go home, leaving her family in La Palma. Is it possible that the Frederick family's argument is a sign that they should leave the island immediately? Because indeed, the Geological Institute has found clearer signs that the volcano on this island will erupt and La Palma will split in two. This child will run away, leaving the island of La Palma where their family is vacationing. Without her parents' knowledge, Sarah will board a plane that will take her to Madrid. Sarah's parents are still unaware that their child has run away. Frederick and his wife are busy arguing, which is the reason Sarah no longer wants to vacation with her family. Meanwhile, at the La Palma Geological Research Center, emerging data shows that it is becoming increasingly clear that the volcano on this island will soon emit hot ash. Before leaving, Sarah managed to call her uncle to say she would be going home alone. Sarah's uncle tried to call her mother, but there was no answer.
Sarah is now on the plane and will take off in a few minutes. The Geological Institute will also report to the airport authorities to cancel all flights because indeed the volcano on this island has finally released its hot ash, but the plane Sarah is on has already taken off. And when they received the information about the cancellation of takeoff, this plane could no longer stop, so the pilot had no choice but to continue taking off. This plane was forced to take off even though the thick volcanic smoke was in front of it. The plane's engines could not withstand the impact and eventually the plane crashed shortly after takeoff. This woman looks very devastated because she just received news that her child was on the plane that crashed. Their child ran away because they couldn't stand seeing their parents constantly fighting during the vacation. Frederick and his wife quickly went to the nearest hospital because they were informed that there were survivors.
Of course, they hope one of the survivors is their child.
However, after searching around, they did not see any sign of Sarah, their child. Security personnel came and provided a list of surviving passengers marked with a blue check, but it turned out their child's name did not have a blue check, which meant Sarah was considered missing or deceased in this tragedy. With mixed emotions, Frederick and his wife returned to their hotel. And it turns out Sarah was in the room. Sarah was actually saved because just before the plane took off, she got off the plane because she regretted her actions of wanting to run away from her parents. Meanwhile, at the island's Geological Research Center, the officials requested the government to immediately declare an emergency. However, the government refused because they considered the signs of the volcanic eruption to be unclear.